I just heard the news that is so disturbing. I think we're in Hungary and the president is Orban. What is going on with Senator Padilla being wrestled to the ground and handcuffed, asking a question?
It's unbelievable today. He was in a press conference asking a question. Clearly, the first thing he said was he mentioned his name. I'm Senator Padilla. I have a question. They wrestled him to the ground. They took him out of the room into the side room where they wrestled him to the ground. They told him to put his hands behind his back, and he said, I can't put my hands behind my back. You're holding them. And he finally did, and they handcuffed him. And after all of that, Jill, within like 1 hour, he, Kristi Noem was on Fox News and giving this whole, she lied about everything. She said he never identified himself. I didn't know who he was.
I know the video
So,
shows that he did identify himself, but I'm a
yes,
lawyer, so I'm going to ask some questions that I think are important before we get completely outraged by this. One question is, okay, this happened in California, his home state, but it happened while Senate was in session, or at least the House was in session, Congress in session. So they're criticizing him for not being on the job, for being in California when he should have been in Washington. Is it true that the Senate was in session?
I'm not completely sure. I know
Okay,
that
so
the Republican speaker came out later and said that he shouldn't have acted this way. I mean, he was totally, nobody apologized. It was unbelievable that any senator would think this is how a senator should be treated. It was
it
unbelievable.
is it is outrageous. The facts matter. I mean, remember my show is called Just the Facts. And so the facts do matter, but it does look like the video was he was asking a question that she didn't want to answer, that it was a public press conference. It wasn't anything that was closed to the public. So this should not happen. Members of the Senate, members of the House, and the public were invited. And if she wasn't ready to answer a question, and the question he wanted to know is what in our Constitution or laws allows what is happening in LA? A perfectly appropriate question for a senator from California to ask. We cannot have this happening. This is, first we had a mayor arrested and then the charges were dropped. Then we have
Right.
a judge who's arrested and is going on trial. Then we have another member of Congress who is has now been indicted for being at an oversight event at a detention center. This is a federal government. By the way, I'm wearing a pin today it's movable because it represents chaos. And here it is, guys. There's my pin. Totally appropriate for what's happening now in America. We are in chaos and the government is falling apart. We've got to stop it. But I do want to make sure that we know the facts and that we aren't just jumping to conclusions. It certainly sounds like a very serious breach of what are the rights of members of the House and the Senate and the public. We have a right to protest. And now they're arresting protesters, peaceful protesters. They're sending the Marines, who are totally ill-equipped. They're equipped for war, for fighting a foreign enemy in an armed conflict. They are not trained for controlling a crowd of peaceful protesters and exacerbating the situation. That's what's so upsetting to me, is that what Donald Trump will now use as grounds for doing this in Chicago, which is where you and I are from, but in every city. The marches that are going to happen on Saturday that he doesn't want to interfere with his birthday celebration could become a flashpoint. I'm in Virginia. There are protests planned in Richmond and in Williamsburg, and of course in Arlington and other cities closer to Washington. And I think everyone has to really be careful to be calm and peaceful, and to make
Right.
sure if anybody tries to interfere, if there are outside agitators, and you and I have talked about this, is it possible that MAGA people are coming there to create chaos? Are they deliberately doing this? The peaceful protesters have to stop it or leave immediately. I hate to say that, but we can't have our peaceful protests interrupted by this happening. So that's my
Right.
feeling right now.
I mean, Ben Rhodes was on a show this afternoon talking and saying, in all his experience, he's never seen anything like this. He said, even Viktor Orban, you would not have seen this.
Yes,
So
exactly.
it's outrageous. And is it
Yes.
setting a precedent, as you said, for this weekend, that
Although,
it's going to be
I mean,
really dangerous? I mean,
Ben Rhodes knows more than you and I do. And so I would go along with him. But I worked in Russia for a long time. And I'm not sure that Putin wouldn't do this. So I don't want to see Donald Trump emulating Putin. I don't want to see journalists arrested. I don't want to see members of Congress arrested who happen to be on a different viewpoint. We have to stop this. And, 2026, the midterms are too far away. I don't know
right.
what can be done before that. But I'm going to try to calm down, although the
There
90-degree temperature.
there were a couple of senators, a couple of Republican senators, the two women. I can't think of their names at the moment that came out against, but nobody. How is it that that other Republicans are not saying this is not right? This is not how senators should be treated. And if this is how senators are treated, then what about the average citizen on the street? Who, I
Well,
mean,
doesn't this look like what's happening to people who are being kidnapped on the street by masked men not wearing uniforms and sent to detention centers without any process at all? I'm not going to even call it due process. There's no process. They're pulled off the street. They are not criminals. There is, in many cases, no evidence that there is any criminal background for these people.
you know,
And, he
someone
says,
else
oh, they're Venezuelans, so therefore. Well, I don't know that they're Venezuelan because there's been no proof of that.
someone also made a comment that, Senator Padilla is a person of color, and his background is very interesting. I mean, he grew up with working class parents. His mother, I think, was cleaned houses, he said, and his father had some other job, but he worked his way up. I believe he went. I'm, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he went to MIT and got a degree in engineering and became a senator. I mean, this is a great immigrant story, and for this to happen to him is particularly outrageous.